Welcome to the Capitol here in Cheyenne, Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. It's News Talk 1270 KIML in Gillette, Wyoming. We are broadcasting live from the Capitol. I'm here, sitting here in a tiny little media room with the backdrop that looks like it's been here for about 30 years. Well, it kind of does. I mean, it looked really good on camera, but when I got here, it's like, it's kind of dirty. They need to take a sponge to that or something like that.
They probably repainted a little bit better, too.
Yeah, broadcasting live for the next 3 hours. This is Special Capitol Report. During the course of the day, I was given a list of people, and we'll start early this morning with those representatives from Campbell County. They will come in. I'll interview them right now. It's Nick DeLotte from the Campbell County Observer, who came down here with me. Actually, let's start with, why did you come down here?
Well, I came down here to check on our legislators. We also have a country party, you know, the Wyoming Country Party meeting. I am a member of that country party.
That's the main reason.
That's coming down. That's happening on Saturday. But I figured, hey, you're already down here. I like spending so much time with you anyway. Smoking cigars. We're going to miss our man cave today.
There is a cigar bar that was right in downtown that's now out of business.
It's gone.
So we got to find out where we can go, because I brought some. We have to go find out where we're going to lay it.
Well, why not the Capitol?
You used to be able to do that. Legislators used to walk around smoking cigars.
Well, I say while we're here,
yeah,
let's go ahead and see if we can introduce a bill, maybe through one of our 5 representatives. Yeah.
Now, on that note, okay, I got to get to this right away. We get here to the Capitol, and I'm looking at this little media room here we're going to set up.
Mm-hmm.
And you went over to sit down to watch a bill get debated on the floor.
Right.
And that bill was?
The lottery bill.
All right, this is
the lottery bill.
First reading of the lottery bill.
The first reading of the lottery bill, yep. So it has not completely passed yet, and it still has to go through the Senate and whatnot. But the first reading has passed. Now, something interesting is you and me, for this week's On the Contrary article in the Campbell County Observer, wrote a debate on this lottery bill. Mm-hmm. And you were actually for it at the time, and I was actually against it. Mm-hmm. And we came to an agreement. Right. What was that agreement?
The agreement was, and I actually like this agreement, if it was a private lottery, first off, so you keep the government out of it, that way you don't have the government bureaucracy. I see there would be no problem with that. I mean, that's tax revenue, isn't it?
Sure, and that would be, like you said, a voluntary tax.
A voluntary tax.
A voluntary tax is what a lottery really is. But when most states right now that do have a lotteries are going broke, and then they've come to the point where their taxpayer dollars are having to fund the lottery, which doesn't make any sense. Now, one thing interesting, and I want to look up more on this because I didn't really know about this, is Representative Zwanzer, who was sponsoring the bill and speaking on the House yesterday, was talking about how the state of Wyoming is going to, if this bill passes, set up their own corporation. Right. And once they do, if that corporation passes or fails, up to them. But they get their startup money. They get, their own corporation, so government apparently would have nothing to do with it.
So would that mean that the state lottery would be privatized, just started by the state? Is that
I don't think so. I think that it was a good political maneuver by Zwanzer to make sure that this bill does get passed. But I've seen a lot of our representatives get up and say that I believe that this is government. Here's where it says government in here. I think the best solution is say, hey, let's make lottery houses legal. Hey, Glenn, you and me open up a lottery house. Right. Now, we'll still get taxed. We'll still get regulated, how much we can pay out, how often we got to draw. But let's just do it private. Not even have the government out of it. Just have a little bit regulated. You and me can go do it. 2 other guys can go do it. By the way, all 5 of our representatives voted for it.
Voted for it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we watched them stand up on the Hill.
Could be interesting when I bring them in. At 6:08 is the time. You're listening to Capitol Report live from the Capitol. I'm Glenn Woods. This is Nick DeLotte. When I went walking in to sit down, first, okay.
Oh, this was hilarious.
First, I go walking in and I hear things like, why don't we spend that money on a mall?
Right.
What were they doing? Because the press that was sitting out in the lobby, and for those who don't know, here at the Capitol, there's a lobby area just before you get into the gallery.
The balcony.
And sit down,
yeah.
Right. So in that lobby area is where a lot of the press sit, and they're just listening on speakers and taking notes. So what was the debate? I heard let's add a mall and there's a lot of laughter going on. What were they doing?
Well, they were debating how they were going to better spend this money. We've already had to do 8% budget cuts, and now they want to put aside money for a corporation to start a lottery. Not making a lot of sense to some of the representatives. So you got to hear some of the more fanatical, better things to spend money on, apparently.
Right. Well, and wasn't there and I'm not sure how the procedure works on this, but the current speaker, now our Speaker of the House is Tom Lubnow,
yes.
The woman who was filling in at the time.
Madam Chairman, I believe.
Madam Chairman, and she called a committee meeting to order to come up to the bench to discuss. I think she was probably trying to stop a lot of, as funny as it was, a lot of the nonsense that was.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. There was actually 2 stops that happened. One of them was the Madam Chairman that did that. And I think it was called a Rules Committee. Because I noticed that Representative Blickery from Campbell County was on that Rules Committee. And I think that's what it was, is to get up there and, like you said, stop some of the craziness that had already started. I'd like to see that every now and then, though, because it reminds me of the old days. You and me saw Lincoln together.
Right.
Okay? And some of the oration of the past and the passion that's behind what the representatives are supposed to be doing, that's kind of what I want to see. So I like to see some of the joking and whatnot. The other one that stopped that was Speaker of the House, Tom Lubnow. I'm not sure if you remember this, but he got up and he said, look, we are going to be here till 10 o'clock tonight until we can even get into committee meetings, because these bills have to go through this House. How long do you guys want to take on this?
Right.
And it wasn't very soon after until they voted.
All right, at that point, I walked into the gallery room. You were already sitting down. And I get to, and if you've never been in the gallery, there's some seats there, and it looks like movie-style theater seating. And I walk up to this glass that is there, and so I wanted to lean over and see our representatives. And I looked over and went, oh, there's Sue Wallace.
Well, the problem wasn't the leaning, because they had the little sign that says don't lean over the glass.
And I wasn't touching the glass. I was just looking my head, and this hand comes onto my shoulder. And this gentleman gently says to me, please sit down. And I've never been asked to sit before. And when I turned around, he said to me, new rule, intimidation.
Right.
All right.
I started laughing.
I looked at Nick, and Nick looks up and goes, seriously? And you weren't the only one. There were several other people around us who we don't even know that turned around and just started laughing. They were right behind you. Okay, so what's that about?
Well, apparently, you know, first of all, I'd like to say where our representatives are sitting, and I haven't been over to the Senate side yet, but where our representatives are sitting, they are in the very back left corner. Okay, so literally, if you want to see them to see how they're voting, which is what we were doing, we were standing up to, you know, who's voting for who. And when you stood up, that's the only possible way that you can see them, unless you work your way on the other side of the balcony. And intimidation? Now, do I need to expand further on this?
Yeah. Well,
first of all, if I'm there, I'd like to say this: if I drive all the way from Gillette, which I wish way more people did, but that's what you and me are here for, or my paper, your radio show. If I drive all the way to Gillette to support or not support a bill, okay, and I've even taken the time to speak in committee meetings and whatnot, and I want to show my representatives in sight that I'm either for or against it by standing or staying sitting, I believe that you should have the right to do that.
Sure.
I'm not sure how intimidation works, you know, on this.
My first question on that is, and I said politely at the time, I don't think the gentleman who had his hand on my shoulder heard me, but I thought I said loud enough to people for people to hear. I thought we were in Wyoming.
Yeah.
We're not one of those wimpy little states, and I've got to ask the Speaker of the House about this one when Tom Lubnow sits here. How is it? Look, I want some people with some backbone in our legislature. I want to see people who will sit down and make, or stand for that matter, and make a decision. And if representatives from that person's district are in the galley and they stand up in protest, fine, make your vote anyway.
Right, as long as you're not doing any loud, you shouldn't be disturbing the House.
You have the right to protest, and that may or may not influence his vote if he is, as far as I'm concerned, a real Wyomingite. It shouldn't influence his vote. We'll settle that at the polls.
Right. Interesting, interesting piece. The 13th Amendment, when that got passed, and this is a part of history, everybody in the gallery, when the Democrats went to vote, mostly against the 13th Amendment, and there were a few that Lincoln was really trying to persuade to swing over to the Republican side on that. The entire gallery was intentionally flooded with half blacks and then half very powerful and rich people that were supporting of the 13th Amendment. And when the Democrats went to vote on their side, everybody in that gallery stood up and stared at every single one. Now, yes, that's intimidating, but without that intimidation, would we have the 13th Amendment today?
The next part of that I thought of isn't in that case, if you want to go that far,
and
just being in the galley, intimidation. So if I was a member of some political action group that wanted to kill a bill, and I was afraid our representative from our district was going to vote for it, we might be sitting. But if I bring in a group of people and we sit down, well, that's intimidation alone.
Well, sure. So I'd like to see the new rule. I didn't hear it was a law. It must be a new rule. Number one, who set the rule?
Right.
Number two, I'd really like to dive into this rule, and I think I'm going to do that when I get home. I'm going to look this up, maybe even tonight, and see what exactly and how did they define intimidation?
Yeah. Well, and what happened to make them...
Right, because usually these kind of things are reactionary.
There's a catalyst for it.
Yeah, nobody sits there and goes, you know, I might feel intimidated if somebody stands up while I'm voting.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound right to me. Something must have happened, which means if somebody actually was intimidated by somebody standing up during a vote, then that person obviously needs to get voted out.
So here's what we need then. We need to find out, first off, what was the catalyst, and then who was the wimp on the floor who turned and said, well, I just can't take this anymore.
Right.
And then we got to find out what district they're from so we can go ahead and tell the people. We have this stupid, and let's just say it, there's a stupid rule now, and your representative was a catalyst for this rule.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that we should do an on-the-contrary article on that and maybe send everybody in the district a copy of the Campbell County Observer.
See, now he's plugging stuff here. So. All right. So, so today, you're off. I'm going to be doing again here for the next 3 hours. Remember, today is Friday, so Steve's Stores from 9 to 10 o'clock. Just a 3-hour show today. And then you will be off running around doing what? What are you after while you're on the hill?
Well, first, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go get us breakfast.
All right.
When I leave here, I'm going to go to the breakfast place because I know you haven't eaten yet this morning, and I told you I get your breakfast, so that's what I'm going to do. Sausage, something, whatever I can.
He's a good housewife. He really is.
I am. I have a good housewife. I had to learn from the best. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come back, and I'm going to sit until the lunch break watching the representatives and the senators. And then I'm going to, I believe we're both going to meet with the governor, and we're going to meet with Cindy Hill, and we're going to meet with Cynthia Cloud, and a couple other people. And then I asked you if you wanted to go to the museum.
Which neither of us have ever been to the Wyoming
No,
Museum.
neither one of us have been to the museum. It's right across the street here.
And we have to see Wyoming Liberty Group.
Yep, we're gonna stop by Wyoming Liberty Group. Very, very good. I know that they're on their show a lot. They write for my paper quite a bit. I know, quite a few of the people in Wyoming Liberty Group, Ben Larson, Steve Klein, Maureen Bader, and great group of people. You're going to love going there. Right. We also have a meeting, hopefully today, if not tomorrow afternoon, with Taylor Haynes.
Right.
At least I do. I'm not sure if you're going to it.
Oh.
The Wyoming Country Party convention is tomorrow. Well, that's just a full weekend.
Yep, and let me ask you a little bit more about the Wyoming Country Party next. So you're listening to a special report live from the Capitol. I'm Glenn Woods. That's Nicholas Delott of the Campbell County Observer. Sponsors, by the way, who came on board for this, and thank you to them, include Nicholas Delott of the Campbell County Observer. More in a moment, live from the Capitol. News Talk 1270 KIML.
Awesome game, awesome.